What is going on, everybody? Carson Wentz is back in the NFL. Kyler Murray is looking like he's going to start this weekend, as well as another quarterback named officially a team starter moving forward, and a lot more around NFL circles. We will dive into it all. But first, subscribe to the podcast, Three and Out with me, John Middlekauff, wherever you may listen. As well as if you're watching this on YouTube, hammer that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a comment below, and share the content with your friends. And thevolume.com, we got merch, thevolume.com. Go check out the merch, Three and Out hats, Flex Fit, trucker hats. We have you covered. Before we dive into a lot of football talk, I need you to do something. Grab your smartphone. And when you grab your smartphone, go to the apps. And when you go to the apps, download a little app called Gametime, the official ticketing app of this podcast. And when you do, go take yourself to a game. A wife, a cousin, a brother, a daughter, a son, a dad, you name it. Go to an event and do it on us. Football games, college or pro. Basketball game. College basketball just started. Down goes Sparty. We have you covered. Hockey, concerts, comedy shows. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to have a fun night out during the week, on a weekend, and I also want you to save a little money. So when you buy your tickets to your event, use the promo code JOHN, that's John, John, that's my name, and save $20 off your first pair of tickets on the Gametime ticketing app, which is the fastest growing ticketing app in America. No big deal. And they happen to be our friends here. So hammer that promo code John, Gametime. Buy yourself a pair of tickets. Breaking news on Tuesday is the Los Angeles Rams, who are now on a bye. They've lost 3 straight games, looked terrible, really, especially the last 2 weeks. Quarterback play in Green Bay against an awful Packer team, abysmal. Cut Brett Rippon, sign Carson Wentz. Now, to me, the overall headline here is the Rams have issues. I shorted them coming into this season, and I simply bet against their quarterback's health. Matt Stafford is now injured. They have backup quarterbacks playing, and they got problems. They invested in a quarterback during the draft, Stetson Bennett, guy who won a couple national championships as the quarterback for Georgia. They refused to tell us what's going on. He's nowhere to be found, MIA, so they had to go fishing in the free agent pool. Now, Carson Wentz, who's had one of the most fascinating careers in NFL history. Number 2 pick, was in the mix to win an MVP, tears his knee, derails his career, bounces around, has basically a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, has been extremely productive in his almost 100 career starts. I think he has 92 career starts, played a ton of football, very productive. Now, the eye test didn't quite look like the numbers, but still, in this world where the Tommy DeVitos and random dudes are starting all over the place, this guy could not get a job till after Halloween. And I do think it shows you. I saw this clip on Instagram, and it was someone essentially giving somewhat like a TED Talk and basically discussing that the majority of business deals now and moving forward, and like forever before, are based on relationships. We do business in this world with people we know. Most people listening to this, I would imagine a lot of your close business associates, the people, if you're a sales guy, you do the most business with, are people you build, develop, and have fantastic relationships with. Welcome to the world. And through those relationships, they lead to more business. Word of mouth, talking about this person, you should meet that guy. And perception becomes reality. When you're told by someone, don't mess with that guy, in any of the industries we work in, word travels fast. People talk. Let's face it, we're bored. We naturally like to gossip. I always find it funny when people are like, oh, they're gossiping like high school kids. I'm 39 and people talk the same way about their neighbors, their friends, and the people they work with. It never changes. My parents, to me, to you, to people in high school, everyone gossips. Fair or not, that's the way it is. And sometimes it's real and sometimes it's not. But when negative perceptions get put out in a business, especially one as small as the NFL, it can really impact you. And listen, I don't know Carson Wentz personally. I've heard some stories from people that have been around him in Philly, not all that positive. But it doesn't matter what I think. Hell, at this point in time, it doesn't even matter what the Eagles think. He's been on several teams since. In the entire league, in a quarterback-starved league, with a guy who was literally, as we call it in the business, on the street, a street free agent, any team could have had. And it's taken for a team to go through backup quarterbacks, to have a backup quarterback essentially leave the team, to have Matt Stafford get injured, for the Rams, who are clearly desperate enough, and let's face it, a little willing to do things other teams will not, to sign this guy. And honestly, it's kind of sad. Now, I think a lot of this is self-inflicted. Some of it is out of his control. His career definitely got derailed once he injured his knee, but he had other, opportunities. The Indianapolis situation, that owner's a kook. And then everything that happened in Washington, tough place to win. But clearly there was a resonating in the locker room that Heineke had that this guy clearly did not. And there is more to playing NFL quarterback than just throwing touchdowns and leading your team to first downs. Obviously, that is the most important thing. But at that position, resonating with other guys, having coaches believe in you, here's the other thing. When you're not a lock starter, right? When you are a no doubt about it, top 10, top 15 quarterback in the NFL, you're basically on scholarship on a given season or for a given contract, you are going to be the starter, right? So we can deal with the ups and downs of your personality, even though it feels like from at least the outside and knowing people in the NFL, most of the high-level guys, Lamar Jackson, Carson Wentz, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, like people really like these guys and being around them, which is ideal. You want your starting quarterback to be the guy that everyone kind of gravitates toward and people want to spend time around. But listen, we're all humans. Aaron Rodgers had an up and down personality for a long time in Green Bay. But when you're good, people deal with you. When you're not good and you make a lot of money, people go, this ain't going to work. And one thing I heard this offseason is I don't know if Carson Wentz exactly viewed himself like a backup quarterback. And until you can look in the mirror and kind of take inventory of where you are in your career, sometimes you have to change first. And if you're unwilling to change, then you're going to continue to have problems. And maybe he's really been humbled by these couple months. I read that John Gruden had been working out with him. Obviously, Sean McVay got his start in the NFL under John Gruden. But it'd be one thing if Carson Wentz just fucking stinks. Who wants that guy? He can't play. He clearly is not as good as we all thought he was going to be, but he's nowhere near as bad of essentially being out of the league at 30 years old. If it wasn't for what feels like a historic amount of injuries in the NFL, this guy probably wouldn't sign a contract all season long. And now here's the thing. The great part about the world we live in, especially this country, is some guys just get countless opportunities. And it's like, yeah, we might have screwed up some of these previous opportunities. Now, financially, he's clearly set for life. But his football opportunities, that window felt borderline closed. Well, now he's got another one. Matt Stafford, whether he ends up coming back after the bye, I read a headline today that they're hopeful that he can play next week at Seattle. But let's say he can't. This Carson Wentz could get a start. Look at Baker Mayfield. Look how everyone was discussing Baker Mayfield last year when everything happened with the Browns. And then he goes to Carolina, so much negativity surrounding him. Then he goes to the Rams. He beats the Raiders, gets someone. We all need people that are proponents of us, right? Beyond our parents, our family, and our wife or girlfriend. You need people professionally that are willing to put a stamp on you, especially successful people in a given industry. If you get that, it's going to open a lot of doors. And Baker Mayfield last year, it looked like he was down and out, kind of toxic. Then what happens? Goes to the Rams. Sean McVay kind of gives a thumbs up. I actually kind of like this guy. What happens this offseason? The Bucs, they not only need a quarterback, but they kind of want him. And so far, Baker Mayfield's a good example of a guy that looked like he was headed to where Carson Wentz was, is going to be out of the league, to now teammates like him, people like him. And listen, no one ever, Baker had his ups and downs with Odell Beckham, but it never got as nasty, not even close. So I'm not necessarily comparing these two situations, but it does show you, man, the reason so many random quarterbacks hold jobs as backups for so long, because people in the building like them, because the quarterback coach, because the offensive coordinator, because their teammates really like being around them. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The reason the Colts never practiced with their backup quarterback because if Peyton Manning goes down, they were fucked, and they didn't practice fucked. And that's how most teams operate, even though you're one play away from having a disaster with your quarterback. But let's face it, when your top quarterbacks in the NFL go down, you're in major trouble. There's not that big of a gap between Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. But between, if Patrick Mahomes goes down, yeah, Chad Henne could have a moment, a game. But if he had to play a season, they would have been in trouble. No different right now with Blaine Gabbert. Their success is predicated on their defense and their quarterback. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this play out. I would expect him to get several starts. And let's face it, if things go well and Sean McVay goes, you know what? He came in humble. He came in willing to listen. That's another knock on him. Not the most coachable. You know what that means? Doesn't listen when we tell him to do things. This is not basketball where you get to do whatever you want. This is the NFL. When the play is called, that offensive coordinator, who happens a lot of the time to be the head coach, wants you to run it their way. And from what I was always told is Carson kind of liked doing it his way. And let's face it, Carson Wentz's way led him to be unemployed at 30 years old in the NFL at quarterback, where he has a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So fascinated by this story. It felt, I almost said inevitable, but not really. I was kind of resigned to maybe this guy's not going to get a shot, which is crazy, but it also shows you that's never the way it works. Not at that position, not with this many injuries. And big picture, let's face it, the Rams hits their wagon to Matt Stafford, and rightfully so. He won them a Super Bowl, but banged up last year, hurt again this year. He has his moments when he's on. You go, God, I totally understand why you gave him $150 million. But then he has games where he's thrown to the other team. Then he's in the training, the blue tent. Not the most reliable player at this point in time in his career, 35 years old. And I think ultimately the Rams, they tried to offload him this year. Couldn't. They clearly tried to get him to take a pay cut. Couldn't. I think they're going to be ready to pivot this offseason. And luckily, for the first time in who knows how long, they actually have draft picks to have some options. So I think the best case scenario is they keep losing. Sean McVay gets to spend some time with his new son, Jordan. And the Rams draft a quarterback this offseason. That's what I would predict. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at even bigger basketball wins. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code JOHN. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHN. The crown is yours. Kyler Murray. I think it's pretty clear what the Cardinals want. They want to keep their options open. They have multiple picks coming into this draft because, remember, they traded last year with the Houston Texans on draft day, which is why they got C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. So they got an extra first-round pick. They're terrible. I mean, they're clearly 1-7. The only reason they're technically not the number one overall draft pick is because the Carolina Panthers are 1-8, who play the Bears on Thursday Night Football. Can't wait to watch that game. I'm sure you guys all agree as well. But here's what I think the Cardinals want. They want to just see what they have. This is a brand new coaching staff who, by all accounts, Kyler Murray, I don't think you change overnight, but clearly was humbled a little bit with everyone shitting on him last year, was injured, has just spent a lot of time thinking, was named a captain, which we can look at that two ways. Named a captain just because they want the league to think that he's grown, or they actually kind of like him. Either way, if you're the Cardinals, your team stinks. And unless you get prime Peyton Manning or Patrick Mahomes, they would only get you a couple extra wins. Even if Kyler is healthy, which there's no way he's going to be 100% healthy, you're not winning that many more games with him than you were with the version of Joshua Dobbs that you had early in the season. But if Kyler physically just looks good, let's face it, unlike a lot of these older players that no one wants to trade for, Kyler, to me, still has a lot of trade value. Physically, he has all the gifts you look for. We've seen him in recent memory be a top 10 quarterback, and he's won before. When he's been healthy, his team has gone to the playoffs. Now, the big question mark with him is just health. A couple years ago, when they were cruising to win the division, he gets banged up late in the season. They end up not winning the division. They're a wild card. They lose the Rams on Monday Night Football. The next year, he's a complete disaster. Everyone gets fired. He tears his ACL. But I do think if he comes back and just looks good, even if you lose, no one's judging him on, are you winning or are you losing? Just physically, do you look like you're headed toward 100%? Because if you do, I think you got a tradable asset. And I think we'll see enough teams. They're going to be desperate this offseason. You don't think the Atlanta Falcons and that owner is going to have some desperation of like, what the fuck are we doing with our quarterback position, Arthur? I know you got a mustache, and I know Pat McAfee loves you, but I watch you coach, fantastic offensive coordinator, as the head guy, unlike your dad, who's dominant as the sitting in the A chair. You not so much. This Bijan situation, a problem. We've drafted a million skill guys. I ideally don't want to trade for 34-year-old Russell Wilson. How about trading for a younger Kyler Murray? Can we figure that one out? So I think that he's going to have trade value. And then on the flip side, what if he's just good and you like him and you keep him? You already got this quarterback under contract. He's definitely talented enough to win with, and you just use those other picks, wait for it, on other players. So obviously you always got to figure out the quarterback position. But what if this guy, who's never going to be a top 2 or 3 quarterback, can just hover around somewhere between like 9 and 14? Because listen, I'm critical of him and his career. I've never disputed his talent, his accuracy, his ability to pass the ball, his ability to move, his ability to see things, his ability to make shit happen. I mean, this guy is way more physically gifted than, let's say, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun's bigger, but Kyler does everything else better, right? In terms of arm strength, in terms of movement, in terms of just speed, in terms of ability to push the ball down the field. So listen, I think he's going to be a fascinating case, and I completely understand why the Arizona Cardinals would play him. It's risky. If he were to get hurt on your watch, you obviously owe him a lot more money, but part of life. It's part of, chasing success. You got to risk some stuff. Some things are going to work. Some things are not. This is a pretty big risk financially, but if you're the coach and the GM, the ROI on if it goes well, to me, is worth that risk. Will Levis named the starting quarterback. You could file that you could see this coming from a mile away. I think the only thing you hope if you're a Titans fan is this guy, win or lose, and you guys are going to lose a lot more games than you win, just continues to look like the guy that we saw, not the 4-touchdown game, but on the Thursday night game. Like, God, this is really something. His arm strength is elite. His pocket presence and poise actually was much more impressive than it was last year. Never forget. And listen, you can call me an idiot, but at one point in time, I thought the guy could be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Then he lost his offensive coordinator and got Rich Scangarello, who was an all-time disaster, who's currently not working in football, had a team that lost a ton of talent. Offensive line fell off a cliff. Their receivers weren't any good. His star running back, I think, was suspended the first couple games. So it didn't go well. But no one ever disputed Will Levis's pure talent. Now, is he a meathead? Is he kind of a weirdo? We'll see. To me, he's with the right guy that can kind of coach that out of you. Because if that is the case, and listen, I'm not disputing it. I'm not one of those disingenuous media members that see what scouts say, who literally go into these programs, tell you what the coaches are telling them. They don't put their name on it. They're not allowed to, and go, that's bullshit. That's not true. No, that's literally what they're being told by the coaches who spend every minute around these players. So I believe all that stuff. Doesn't mean we can't change. I changed a lot in my 20s. I grew up a lot. I matured a lot. And the one thing we know, anyone who's followed the NFL and followed Mike Vrabel, like, certain shit's not going to be allowed. And he's going to be all over this guy's ass in a good way. So to me, I think Will Levis can grow as a person, and as a player, I think there's a lot to like. And then another thing on the quarterback situation, I think if I was Aaron Rodgers or I was in his position, my mid to late 30s, had unlimited amount of money, have already the pelts on the wall that I need if my career ended tomorrow, I think I would just say outlandish shit nonstop and just piss off all the people in the legacy media, just constantly just keep everyone on their toes. And I think it's a great, like every time he mentions Dr. Fauci, half the media's like, oh, you can't say that about Dr. Fauci. That is not allowed. That is so weird. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, shut up. And every time Aaron's like, yeah, I think I'll be back, hopefully by Christmas. Everyone's like, that is not possible. He could not come back from this injury. Even he said, I guess he was being a little tongue-in-cheek, telling Derwin James he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. It's like, everyone, just calm down. The dude's bored. He's rich. He's rehabbing. I don't blame him one iota for just constantly saying stuff, knowing he can needle the legacy media big J's, because there can't be an easier group to get more up in arms. I could list you 25 things to say if you were an athlete that will immediately cause chaos in their world. And no one is better at it than Aaron Rodgers. And is he coming back this year? No, he's not. Even if he could, he would get killed by that offensive line. I just saw someone DM me that said, basically people are being too hard on Zach Wilson. It's not all his fault. I agree. It's never all one guy's fault. Their offensive line is not very good, but you can't watch them if you just watch football throughout the weekend and throughout the season and go, yeah, the guy's pretty promising young quarterback. You can give me numbers of previous famous Hall of Fame quarterbacks and go, his numbers are somewhat comparable. When you watch it, you go, yeah, I don't see it. And, I give Colin a lot of credit on this. I was a big Baker Mayfield guy. I was probably not a huge Johnny Manziel guy, but character, makeup, maturity is a huge, huge part of quarterback success in the NFL. Look at the top 10 most talented guys in the NFL. All high character, super focused, non-fuck around guys. Beloved by their teammates, loved by their coaching staff. And anytime that you bring in immaturity issues, which are normal for 99.9% of us guys, we don't mature at the same rate as women. I would say most of us mature probably greatly in like our 30s, where I was going to high school with girls that are like, God, this girl's ready for like the real world. She's like 17 years old. But there's just something missing with Zach. There has been something missing from the jump. And then there's a skill set where, yeah, he's got a good arm and he can move. Yet when you watch it, it never actually translates to the game. Like Kirk Cousins now for about 7-8 years. Not a great athlete, not the biggest arm. Yet you watch him. It's like, yeah, that just works. Does it have its limitations? Of course. But does he know how to play the position? Same thing with Jared Goff. By the second year, Sean McVay goes, and you go, this guy's never going to be Steve Young running around. He's never going to have Tom Brady's arm, but that's what a quarterback looks like. You watch Zach Wilson, you're like, yeah, this guy, I would not want this guy to be my starter. Another story I saw was, I always love a good nugget when it's like the Chiefs and the Dolphins in Germany drew 9.2 million people. You always got to put it in context. Relative to the World Series, congrats to my guy Bruce Bochy, 4th World Series championship. Absolute winner. The World Series, now granted, the Rangers have been around a long time, never won a World Series, and the Diamondbacks are one of the worst playoff teams in the history of baseball. It wasn't a great matchup. It's not exactly Dodgers-Yankees or Red Sox-Cubs, but it averaged 9.1 million people. So a lot of people watched this game. Now, relative to some previous Germany games, I think last year was a little over 5. Unique situation. You get the defending Super Bowl champs against a really good team in the Miami Dolphins. So if you give these morning games to playoff teams, it's going to get eyeballs. That's a fact. I think the problem is a lot of the good teams, if you're a playoff level team and you have to go over there and give up a home game, it's one thing to give up a home game against a shitty team. It's another thing to give up a home game if you're, I don't even know whose home game that was. I assume it was Miami. But if you're the Chiefs, you're playing the Bills. You're like, this game could be in Kansas City. Can you just give us the Bronco game over there? So I think that's where they get themselves in some issues, because they easily could build this morning slot into something that is averaging $7-8 million. Now, granted, I benefited, as I said the other day, from Mountain West time zone. Arizona, for whatever reason, doesn't change the clock. So half the year's Mountain time zone, the other half Pacific Standard time zone. It was really easy for me to watch this whole game. Now, even if it was at 6:30, I definitely would have made an effort, even on a Sunday morning, probably to try to get up by about 7. But it just, the clocks got rolled back. I think it was a perfect combination of some things. But one thing's clear, and it's always clear in the NFL. If you give a fantastic matchup, people will watch. That can't be said in baseball, and that can't be said in basketball. Because even if I give you Warriors-Lakers or Dodgers-Yankees, there's still going to be major lows relative to what those games used to be in years past. That's not the case with the NFL. It's why we talk so much about this NFL dominance. It's the only thing in this world that can get us all to agree to sit on a couch and watch. It's the only thing. For a short period of time, Colorado was drawing like 10 million people. Dion had that power. Perfect combination. This famous guy becomes a coach, football. One common denominator is just football. You put football on, whether it's fantasy, whether it's gambling, whether it's just we like watching it, it's easy. You know for a fact everyone's going to try hard in the game. You know for a fact if they're healthy, everyone's going to play in the game. A ton of different variables here, but they're all working on the NFL side. And clearly no slowing down in the process. Don't miss the action this weekend when the Colts and the New England Patriots head to Germany for the NFL Frankfurt games. These games will air on NFL Network and stream on NFL Plus. For a limited time, Verizon customers can get Netflix and NFL Plus for $25 a month with Plus Play. That's $120 in annual savings. Plus Play is a platform where Verizon customers can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions you already love, like NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to live games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, and NFL Network, which means you can catch the Frankfurt games and save. Just go to Verizon.com/thevolume to bundle and save before the games. Hurry, this offer ends soon. Again, that's Verizon.com/thevolume. I went to spin class this morning. I'm officially kind of a fat ass, and I'm like, I got to draw a line in the sand. I need to. Working out's not necessarily my problem. It's more my diet. I tend to work out 5 or 6 days a week. My diet can just fall off a cliff. Drinking probably doesn't help, but mainly diet. So it's a spin class, and we're riding away, and the lady leading the class, fantastic. Sometimes you ever go to spin class, and you just watch the chick leading it. You're like, God, she's just smooth up there. How does she look so cool? I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like clunky. I'm like, no wonder Lance Armstrong was sucking down PEDs. This is hard. And she talked about, like, think of this like therapy. Get out all your endorphins, sweat everything out, and get yourself the right mindset for the rest of the day. And I thought, my mind's always working for the show. And I'm like, let's do a little Tuesday therapy session. Let's do a little therapy Tuesday. And people could be like, Middlekauff, you tend to be negative. And it's like, yeah, it's true. I get it from, this is all based on my childhood and my family. And I can lean negative. I'll be the first to agree. Let's be positive. Let's take something negative and try to turn it into a therapy Tuesday positive. And I was thinking about the Bears, a team I've talked a lot of shit about. Rightfully so. I mean, they've been atrocious. They almost went a year with losing. They're hard to watch. They're starting a guy from Shepherd College right now. Their coach just physically looks awful. Looks like his whole head's gray now. Looks like he needs to eat a sandwich. Eberflus looks bad. I mean, talk about a guy that looks like he needs a vacation. Firing coaches left and right. Don't have a lot going for them. Not a fun team to watch. They're playing the Carolina Panthers this week. And so to me, this can be a positive. You are going to be able, if you're a Bears fan, to get a win. You're going to win a game, which in the NFL, even if you're awful, those 3 or 4 times during the season that you win are always cool. But you're also going to be able to beat the team you own their pick. Turn them 1-8 and have that pick headed toward the number 1 overall pick. Because I know a lot of Bears fans would love to get the number 1 and 2 pick. If you end up with the number 1 pick, whether that second pick is 4, 6, 3, or 8, who cares? As long as you get that number 1 pick, you control the draft, and that second pick is just kind of gravy. So, listen, Brighter days are ahead. Didn't love the contract you signed Sweat to, but it is what it is. Once you trade the second round pick, you might as well just give him an unlimited amount of money. But you get to play a game this week where if you win, the team that loses also gets to benefit you. So I'm trying to keep it positive here. A little Tuesday therapy sesh. Brighter days are ahead for the Chicago Bears. Let's dive into my friends at Uber Eats because it's time for this week's player/team I thought might give almost anything to redo their game. Brought to you by Uber Eats. And I've been thinking a lot about this because, like many of you, I haven't seen the rating yet. I would imagine that Cowboy-Eagle game was highest rated game of the year. It was just a fantastic game, edge of your seat, two of the bigger brands. And I said all week long, Cowboys need to win gritty. Cowboys need to win gritty. Then they're up 17-14. And then the Eagles come out, score a couple touchdowns. And you're like, God, Cowboys just going to lose this game, just kind of roll over. And they didn't. They just kept battling. But then every time they needed a big play, Dak Prescott's foot was 3 inches out of bounds. The dude, instead of being an inch into the end zone, was an inch out of the end zone. You talk about a game of inches. You talk about almost winning the game, yet you lose. It's the Cowboys. And I appreciate the brand. I grew up on the brand. You know, there are some teams. Actually, there's really only one team. I hate the Lakers. I despise the Lakers. I don't hate the Dodgers. Really kind of irrelevant to me. They've won one championship. I don't even count it in 2020. They played 60 games. But for the most part, like, whatever. Dodgers, well-run organization. I actually kind of enjoy watching them on TV. I despise the Lakers. Grew up hating the Cowboys. But honestly, because of Jerry, find them kind of entertaining. Root for them to be good. I'm glad now they're good. Because we don't have to fake talk about the Cowboys. Like you do have to like fake talk about like the Yankees or when the Lakers suck because their brands are so powerful. It is fun if the Cowboys are going to win 11, 12 games. You can just actually talk about football stuff with them. They have elite players. They have a Super Bowl winning coach who's very polarizing. So it's real when we talk about the Cowboys. But that was a game you got to win, man. You got to win. And they came oh so close. I mean, we're talking several inches his foot out of bounds. The play, even some on the final drive, they get the breaks of a century with the pass interference, yet they lose. And you look up, the Eagles are going to cruise this division now, and you had a chance to win. So that was this week's almost anything player of the week. And you can order almost anything with Uber Eats, the official on-demand partner of the NFL. Order now.